delicate balancing act he's trying to perform.
Messing act.
You saw this in Labor's manifesto back in June 2024, for example. It expressed support for Palestinian statehood, but very deliberately avoided committing to immediate recognition or, crucially, a full halt to arms sales. That stance definitely disappointed many pro-Palestinian advocates.
I see. So what about the specific justifications for the remaining licenses, the ones that weren't suspended?
Well, the Labor government insists that the majority of those roughly 200 active licenses are for non-military or purely defensive purposes. They cite examples like goggles and helmets, things like that.
Goggles and helmets.
Yes. And they also maintain that the F-35 exception, keeping those components flowing into the spares pool, is necessary for NATO obligations and security partnerships. A Foreign Office spokesperson stated back in May 2025 that any suggestions of the UK is licensing weapons for use in Gaza are misleading.
Mhm.
However, critics jump on this immediately. They argue that the distinction between offensive and defensive equipment is incredibly blurry, especially in the context of modern warfare, and particularly given the F-35's documented offensive role in Gaza operations. Can you really separate the parts so cleanly?
Yeah, that distinction does seem difficult to maintain in practice. Okay, to give you listening a really complete picture, let's just zoom out a bit. Let's place the UK's policy within the broader and frankly devastating context of the Gaza conflict itself. And maybe compare the UK's role briefly to other nations.
Right. The humanitarian crisis in Gaza is, well, it's dire and it's ongoing. Since October 7, 2023, the conflict has resulted in, according to Gaza's health ministry figures, over 54,000 Palestinian deaths and more than 101,000 injuries. Staggering numbers.
3 is staggering.
And Israel's blockade has severely worsened hunger and medical shortages. Reports indicate nearly 500,000 Palestinians facing catastrophic levels of hunger. Israel's military actions have drawn significant international condemnation, leading, as we know, to the International Criminal Court. The ICC, that's the one prosecuting individuals issuing arrest warrants for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and others for alleged crimes against humanity. Now, when considering the UK's role in terms of arms, it's important to understand the scale. UK arms exports to Israel are actually relatively small in the grand scheme of things. They make up less than 1% of Israel's total military imports.
Less than 1%, okay.
Yeah, it's minor compared to countries like the U.S., which provides, $3 billion annually, plus significant additional aid, and also Germany, which is another major supplier. However, and this is the key point for critics, even though the volume is small, the symbolic and legal implications of continued exports, particularly those controversial components like the ones for the F-15s, remain profoundly significant in the eyes of human rights groups and potentially international legal bodies.
Right, it's not just about the quantity.
Exactly. It's the principle, the legal obligations, and the message it sends.
So this deep dive really reveals the tightrope the UK Labour government is walking with its arms export policy to Israel. It's incredibly complex. While some licenses, around 30, have been suspended, citing those international humanitarian law concerns, about 200 remain active. And the flow of F-35 components through that global spares pool, that continues. And that's clearly a crucial point of contention for critics. And that approval of $169 million in arms exports between October and December 2024 under Labour, that's really intensified those accusations of complicity, hasn't it? Despite the government's claims that these are mostly for non-offensive purposes.
Yes, it certainly has fueled the debate.
And you've got the legal challenges ongoing, significant political dissent bubbling up within Labour itself, and widespread public protests. It all highlights the immense scrutiny surrounding this policy. The government's reluctance, it seems, to publish its detailed legal assessments or impose that full embargo demanded by some, well, it just keeps the issue burning under intense public and international debate.
It does. It's not going away.
So for you listening, this really raises a crucial question to consider, I think. When does contributing components, even indirectly, to a global military supply chain cross the line into some kind of shared responsibility for actions on the ground, especially when direct sales are denied? And maybe, how does the complexity of this global spares pool model fundamentally challenge our very notion of national accountability in modern intertwined warfare? Something to mull over as you continue to explore this very vital and difficult topic.